We need to pull up a project we haven't worked on in a while. Slow moving. Not this one. Yeah, it's this one. Oh, which I shouldn't ignore, but I must. Yo, let's draw. Hell yeah. Weird phone call from my agent that I want to ignore. No, because like a normal person who was born before 1980, they're like, oh, I'll just call them. But I was born after 1980, and I'm like, the phone call rings. I'm just like, nothing good comes from a phone call. You know what I mean? So I'll let that go to voicemail, even though it could be an important call. I'm like, there's no such thing as a. It's not that there's no such thing. It's just like almost any phone call could be a text or a voicemail, right? It's facts. Like the rudeness. I'm not saying they're rude, but there's a reality to the rudeness. Let it ring twice if it's an emergency. Yeah, I'll make my wife call twice. No, because she'll call me just to talk on the way home, which I appreciate. I really do, but it's also... Oh, God. I might have to... My agent's like, can you call me back? A job wants you to start today. Let me see if I can handle this in a quick email. If you guys can give me just a little bit of... Just gonna say, yep, I can start today or whenever. All right, there we go. That's how life goes for me. There's a lot of, you know, I tend to make a lot of, oh my God, I don't have time to do this or that, but it really is like this sometimes. And that's always my best advice when you're waiting for something to happen. Just go do something else. Go do something else that is like more important or less important, and make it more important than the important thing. And then the important thing will just be like, yo, you're not going to ignore me. That's just life. Okay, so we're going to do this. Lol, I need your agent. It's not my agent's doing that jobs come in. She mostly just sits by the phone. I use her as like a firewall to keep out the garbage jobs. And also make me do jobs that I wouldn't do except apart from the paycheck. But the paycheck is there, so I'm like, okay. You know, I end up doing a lot of I have to compromise my morals on a lot of this stuff. Okay, here, let me make this big screen. Listen, we're gonna see how far we can. Oh, there's me. Yeah, hey. We're gonna see how far we can get on a Zelda stream today. Very difficult. Any such cases of difficulty with the Zelda streams. Look at all this. We don't want that there. Pause that. And boom. I'm going to call this Helmasaur King. This is the low-hanging fruit. This piece that we're looking at is hey Danny, what we're cooking today is this old piece, Come Back to Life. It's weird because what was once it's so odd. I don't know what to every time I think I get what's going on, I'm surprised when I tell myself, oh, this piece is good, but it's not good enough. You know, it won't impress anybody. But I'll post it anyway. And then I post something and it explodes, and I'm like, what? Why, what? And it's just true that there's lots of audiences out there for all kinds of stuff. I know where my tastes lie. Somewhere in the world of... Yeah, I'm picking up my kids in a couple of hours. I got maybe an hour and a half. Well, this is the goal for this stream. Take this piece as far as we can in black and white. We're gonna render. This is gonna be a different rendering approach than the long rendering approach that we did, you know, a couple months ago. We're gonna try and speed run this render. So many variables that play into something that does well. All you can do is tweak as best you can and pray. I agree. Like on my Instagram, where like Zelda content seems to do well, I posted the Shroom Girl thing, and people were like, "Okay, cool, this is cool." And I posted on TikTok, and they were like, "It's cool." Then I did the process of the Shroom Girl, and it did really well on TikTok. And I'm like, "Wow, okay, well, I don't know what really well is, but for me, it did the best thing so far." And it has like 1,000 likes on TikTok. That's for me is kind of cool. For me, that's cool. It's like 1,000 likes is pretty cool. Yeah, because it's been seen 4,000 times and has 1,000 likes. That's a good conversion. So I think that's to say that TikTok seems to have pushed it to the right audience, whether or not that matters. That's a good ratio, yeah. So now I'm like, well, now TikTok has my attention. Because in like, whatever, I've had my Instagram account for 2 years, and then my TikTok account for 2 months. And now my TikTok account is bigger than my Instagram account. I'm like, I don't know. This is interesting. And also they really, well, you know, I hate to say when I'm wrong, but, you know, it takes a humble man to admit when he's wrong. The humblest. No one is more humble. But the reality is it has to be that I'm willing to take a risk on failing. And I did, and I learned something, which is Zelda content can do well on TikTok. Also process videos. But now I'm curious to see... Well, I don't know what I'm curious to see. Foregoing all that, given the limited window today, I want to push this and see if I can get a little bit of render in. How quickly can I render something in black and white? Because then I can do the gradient map and then just a little bit of local color and blend the two, and that basically gets a finished piece. It's not that crazy. This is the hard part, was figuring out Link's pose. And this looks pretty decent. Okay. Quit that. Bring this back. And yeah, I could get called into a meeting any minute now. I don't want to be. All right. The client looks like they will probably book tomorrow, not today. And just to give it a little context, this is a client that I have a great relationship with them, but like a solid, like, you know, human to human relation. But also, the last project I was on with them was very challenging, and it involved NFTs and crypto and the kind of stuff that is, not that I was drawing NFTs, it's not like that, but it's like a promotional thing for spaces that include that type of stuff, and that was very difficult. I don't know. You know? It's tricky. That stuff is, it's not my, it's not my passion, you know? But we'll see. If they need me now, we'll hop. You can post storyboard content. I can't because it's a all that stuff is it's covered with NDAs. Yeah, maybe if it's really old, like several years old. There's only so many ways you can upload a single image, but TikTok lets you upload in various ways. Actually, I should comment. This client might actually be following me on YouTube, so, you know, apologies and hellos if they are actually following me. We'll see. I don't want to get in trouble for being on a job. It hasn't started yet, though. I didn't say anything bad. This is all good things. I'm excited for work when there's work, and I'm excited to do my personal projects when they're personal projects. But fingers crossed, it's like a, what would it be? What's that kind of commercial that I would do that would make me happy? I don't know. Sometimes the funnest commercials are just like burger commercials or like toy commercials. Stuff that feels simple. I get brought in a lot on the hard stuff. That's okay. That's normal. It's a good space to be in, but it is challenging. Even a still image like this would do well on TikTok if you made the context appealing. Yeah, I feel like the so this I posted sketches of this with like a few others in context with some music, and people were like, wow. Oh, that's good. You know, just to reiterate, this isn't about me exploding for my own sake. I'm trying to popularize educational techniques for the masses so that despite the drag of AI and other types of things, we can have hope for humanity not forgetting how to draw in the near future. So, for real. Okay. I might switch this over to the Zelda music in a bit. We'll see. going to give a little bit of shading here on Link. Because I feel like that would help ground him. Oh god, what should I do? I'm gonna think about it. Yeah. Screw it. Let's do the king. The Helmasaur King. This guy.
Right now is by
That's where we need the most help. This right here. And I have to leave here at 1:20. So we have an hour and 20 minutes. Something like that. And I guess that means for right now, let's just try and get as far with this as we can. Rendering with the line art. I think it could be a banger. Hey, Boxer. Hey, what up, bro? Some of them, when I go back and look, it's this one and the Gleeok. I'm just like, a lot of these. I'm just like, this is unfinished business. I keep trying to move on from the Zelda stuff. Only, if nothing else, to be not completely contained by it. But there I have the most solid footing nonetheless, so keep coming back. Why cripple myself? Well, I keep trying to, it's certainly true that I think what I did was reach a lot of the low-hanging fruit. And then what I also did was I insisted too hard on doing things the hard way, in a way that felt and was extremely educational. And I'm confident that that time was not wasted in terms of what I learned from it. But in terms of what seems to grab audiences' eyeballs, see, the thing is, no one seems to care more about any other type of art except for pretty girls. As in the content of pretty girls. Which is good because I can draw that all day. But also, I don't want to draw that all day. And I'm not going to learn as much from doing that as I would if I branched out as much as I could and tried other things. This will be a challenge because I'm going to use a different technique. I'm going to draw in a way that feels a little fresh. But I'm still going to learn. I'm going to learn how to color faster, essentially. Someone commented on the TikTok. They said, I feel like I'm watching a movie. And it's like, that's the vibe I want. And it's a good showcase of my skill if I can take a halfway produced piece and then take it to what feels like a completed render or something that is saleable. Because the rough sketches themselves like sell the idea very well, and the viewer can complete it in their minds. But let's say someone needs it just a little bit further. How do I do that? How do I do that and not make it take weeks? Not weeks in real time, but weeks in max time. This is tricky. You gotta make people like your stuff. You gotta pull out all the tips and tricks into making nice drawings. Just get people to stick around for more than a few seconds. For real, but it's been interesting to see what people are actually responding to versus what I thought they would be responding to. The hard lesson for me is people don't it might be the case that people don't necessarily care about Zelda content, as in the Zelda franchise, but hot girl content who happens to contain Zelda and or Midna and or Malon or whatever. Basically, attractive people seem to sell to the eyeballs. Yeah. And so where I'm trying to be like, look at me, I can do these types of things that are very interesting. Look at these look at my action compositions. The metrics are, or at least, and it isn't even like the metrics, it's like the conditioning is there too. Some of this is to blame on the algorithm, right? The algorithms, right? Because it's like, are people responding it to because that's the way they are, or have they just simply been conditioned to be that way from the algorithm and stuff like that? That's that's kind of the question. Do a quick save. I don't want it to be such the case that what rewards me the most is drawing scantily clad pretty girls. But then, so what do I do? You know? It's like I'm looking at the evidence right in front of my face. It's like newscast. Shocker. Spoiler alert. The algorithm rewards you for drawing pretty girls. Pretty girls and pretty people. In cozy situations, you know, or whatever. I'm looking at this and I'm like, that is inconclusive. I think we need more action. We need more monsters and weapons and violence. You know, so I'm probing the system for weakness, I guess you could say. This is an interesting. Have you checked your analytics on Mushroom Girl? They looked really healthy to me. Yeah, it was like, it was right in the sweet spot. The whatever, 18, 24 years old, 50-50 male female. We're digging on the Mushroom Girl. I think TikTok like that. They were like, cool. You get blessed. Cling, 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 cling. You know. That's a weird thing to see, is like your phone lighting up, like notification after notification after notification after I was like, wow, that's interesting. But then when it stops, it's like someone took away your drug. You know, and you're like, oh my god, what am I going to do without it? The validation. Don't take my validation. On my friend's piece, the one that's doing well. Oh, Friren piece. It's like 90%. What's that? 90% males, which makes sense. But now I'm like, I like the video, but probably because I'm also a guy and you make softer content for women. Once it slows down, it's like, it's over. It's over for me. But it's true. It is kind of like that, where you're like, I don't want success. I want sustainability. You know, being already successful-ish. I'm successful, but I feel like the sustainability is what's missing right now. Need more. Speed run this the way I thought I could. I need to zoom out because it's like, I don't normally, if I was storyboarding this would have like been done already, but it would have been at a low resolution. And it's like, I kind of need to do this like a top level view. Yeah, it's like how I do work on transferring the momentary success into long-term success. Yeah, I think anybody can sort of pop off randomly. Not saying you're whatever, if your thing is doing well, that is excellent, and chase that. But it's I'm doing the same, right? But it's like, it could also be that even the algorithms are sort of conspiring to pop you off, only then to take it away, and then you keep you trying. You know what I mean? I'm a little conspiracy brained that way. But do you ever get that feeling? Now what? Yeah, like, is this set up so that you get like a casino, right? you get a hit, right? And I'm not a gambling addict. However, as a person who struggles with addictions and stuff like that, I actually find gambling addict content, like people who are degenerates, like online and stuff like that, I get a visceral thrill watching them like lose their shirts or whatever. And it's horrifying, but it is it's a thing I identify with. I don't know. I have to be crazy because all I do is watch crazy people do crazy things online. Right? Like I watch like hoarders or whatever, and I'm like, I would totally be like that. Except I have a wife who like keeps me straight and centered and stuff like that. But I'm like, I would totally stack comic books to the ceiling, and like die under a comic book avalanche. That's not beyond me. That is well within. That was my trajectory for many years. You know, I feel like I got bailed out by the grace of someone who could handle themselves, handle life. For the things we do, we all got to be a little strange. Agreed. So here's a question. This is an interesting question. If you have a rib cage, we all know what the rib cage looks like from the front, yes? Here's Mr. Skeleton. Neck. And we all know that the rib cage looks like this, right? That's good. But as a necessity of that, the reverse ends up being a rib cage that is highly complicated. First it goes up and then it goes down. It ends up looking like this from the back. And so the side view, you just get all these like U shapes. Right? It's a strange... It's a strange thing, but that's to say that basically this reference with like the ribs or the forms of the spine basically pointing out towards Link, that's kind of inaccurate. You can have some of that. It might be like this, but then it goes down. Spines. And then it's tricky too because you have to layer the muscle over that. Like, how the hell do you do that?
Smacking him in the face with your hammer is the only thing that can damage.
Probably a shift in perspectives. I've been studying pixel art and I've noticed sometimes they do that with body parts. Yeah, I think it's like... I agree. It is a shift in perspective, but in this case, I feel like... I need to think twice about just simply doing like a rote copy. And it's interesting. There seems to be spikes on the body, pointing in all sorts of different directions. Yeah, it didn't have any kind of mouth. My original sketch. I feel like a little something of that would be smart. One thing I do is, I mean, I like to cook, so I've seen my fair share of like roast chickens, or roasting chickens, not a like a raw whole chicken, essentially. A lot of animals have anatomy in common. We're all sort of evolved from a very similar ancestor back in the day. And so this is a tricky composition, because what is happening in this is it's meant to be a frenetic, frenzied sense of action, meaning that if I draw anything too precise, and this even applies to the link that I've already drawn, that is simply it's too dialed in. What I think should go for is something that includes just a little bit more smear, or a little bit more like there needs to be some motion blur on this, so it doesn't feel I don't want the composition to feel super arrested, right? This comp sort of reminds me of the League of Legends splash art. Yeah, the like the dynamic combat. Yeah. All those guys are goated, but it's not an exaggeration to say that like those roles are tangential to the roles that I serve at similar studios. So I've never worked at Riot, but Riot is like a client of my clients, and I have worked on Riot properties before. But not. I wouldn't say that those are particularly fun projects. They're extremely mediated in a way that is very. In commercials and advertising, we move so quickly. Like we get a script, we run with it, because it's like a race. It's bid out to be completed as soon as possible. And then we show them what we have the next day, and they're like, oh, yeah, we've rewritten the script like 3 times since we hired you. Here's the new script. And it's completely different. Like, there's not... It's like even like the theme is different. Like there's like characters are different, settings different, stories different. It's just a completely... And it was just sort of realizing it's like These people are wonderful, but they come from a different world. They have a bit of money to blow. That might be what they're flexing. But honestly, I just don't think that they are used to competing in a space like in commercial production. It's a very interesting. There's no wasting time in in movies. There can be nepotism, right? There's enough sort of like elbow room and like angles on production schedules for there to be like opportunities to absorb waste. The margins on advertising and commercial production are so slim. Everybody has to be very good at what they do and or punching up in order for the project to not fold in on itself, because everything is like underbid and understaffed. Part of why I get hired is like I'll be storyboarding and then accidentally like designing sets and designing characters and designing. Yeah, you're practically directing. You're practically, doing the modeling. That, and that's not even my job, but it's just sort of like what is happening, like in the margins of what I'm doing. In the video game space, it sort of felt, and this is just like from my POV, that there was just a lot of it's like not feeling like there was much of a rush to come to a decision about what your story was about, how do you not know, right? But it's like, and then so like they give it to us and it's like, okay, I can clearly see that this concept is underdeveloped, but also like that's not abnormal for us to like be handed an underdeveloped concept and you just develop it, that's what they hire you for. But then they forgot to get out of the way and they kept coming back with it's because like what we would give them would be gold. This is great, except it's like, oh, they sort of changed their mind without telling us behind the scenes. I was like, okay, well, that's a problem. We don't want that to happen. And so it is a reality that no matter how well I draw something, my work will be discarded as those higher up in the chain are sort of slowly, very slowly, coming to gel in their own minds, their vision. But this is interesting to... Yeah, I mean, so here's a question. Is... If this arm is close to the body, this... So let's say this hand... So he's sort of making a turn, and he's like grabbing onto the ground. It's almost like a drifting turn, as he's like charged through one giant wall and shattered it, and is now wants to come around and make another. You can imagine, try to think of this as creature, the Helmasaur King, as some sort of giant bull, like a bull in the china shop, right? This arm is close to the body, this one. And then this arm is reaching forward now. Or starting to reach forward to take the next paw at the ground. I'd like a discussion about what you're seeing go on within the industry. It would be nice to hear more about it somewhere like in a podcast or something. Yeah, it's tricky. And I can only speak to my own experience. But it was very consistent throughout all of my video game projects that, and it's like, I don't put the blame on like the people who are writing the scripts necessarily. It's like they have their own internal things where they need to run this stuff up the chain. Ultimately, it's like, there must be the people in the chain that, there are people in the chain that insist on that, like, okay, the what will be approved when I say it's approved. Only I will approve what appeals to my vision. But also, I can't tell you my vision. You have to guess at it. And you need to begin guessing immediately. And your first 3 guesses will be wrong, but I still want to see them. It's like, how do you do creative in that sort of space? This is like tech bro creative spaces. This is not how things started. This is just how they evolved into entertainment. When I got into it, and especially advertising, they were already cut to the bone as close as they could be business-wise with the margins. That hasn't shifted at all in 20-25 years. People aren't making more money doing commercials than they ever were. So it's simply about like, okay, where can we eliminate costs? And there's all sorts of efficiencies essentially unfortunately, by basically going around unions and shooting things on green screens and stuff like that, and avoiding real life sets and avoiding everything else that comes with it. But then also, it's just sort of like, it feels like they're constantly trying to cut timelines in half. The time they would normally put into making sure that the script was solid or whatever, they don't do that anymore. They're like, oh, we can do scripts the same time we do storyboards, And it's like, okay, well, that doesn't give storyboards enough time to draw what they need to draw. They're like, well, we can just do with scribbles. You know? Storyboards are now scribbles. That's all you need for a storyboard is a scribble. So that's where I come in and I say, I'm not interested in drawing scribbles. Okay? I'm not a scribbler. Okay? I can do my job in scribbles in a pinch if you need me to on occasion. But if my job is reduced to scribbles so that you can save a buck, then I'm not quite interested in doing that in the long term. I can do that, you know, today. I can do that tomorrow. I can do that next week. I can do that next month. But 10 years from now, I'm not going to be doing that. I don't know about that. It's not quite my cup of tea. Scribbles. Something, the mouth needs to be something more. Maybe there can be some like slack in it. Save. Anyway, having been on several, I do mean several, video game to, you know, whatever, short form, cinematic, hype, vids, you know. I did that on Clash of Clans, I did that on... Michelangelo was probably saying the same stuff when he was drawing for the Pope. Michelangelo, the more I know about him as an artist, is the guiding light of what I'm trying to do, even now. Michelangelo was one of the first artists where their work was prized for the personal vision that they put into it, and not simply because the work was made of gold, or it was made of fine marble, or it was rare. Michelangelo, in his own time, and this is unique to Michelangelo and since Michelangelo, Michelangelo in his own time was rarefied and honored for the preparatory sketches he did on worthless pieces of paper. Not ever in art history has worthless paper, like rags, essentially. You and I would call it a napkin, almost. In his day, his sort of indiscriminate thinking, artistically, was seen and valued as art. That was unique to him in his day. And since then, we have prized drawings by Leonardo and Raphael and other stuff, but the preparatory drawings of artists before Michelangelo were not considered to be precious things. What was precious was the painting that contained rarefied minerals from other lands and pigments from, you know, leagues away across the ocean, ultramarine blue across the ocean. You know, it's like this stuff, in the time of the Renaissance, what made a painting amazing was not necessarily the craftsmanship. The craftsmanship mattered, but the arrangement of essentially ground up gems into a fictive space, the rarity of that was what made a painting, and the gilded frame and stuff like that, you know. All that was what made a painting valuable. It's like the base cost was everything. And Michelangelo sort of changed stuff. He made it clear that you could have a piece of art that connected to your soul, and that had worth that was priceless. That was at once worthless and priceless. A very interesting new paradigm.
He also has spikes in the back of the room, so you can't attack him from the back.
Wonder what sort of stuff he'd be doing today. It's interesting. I've always sort of wondered that, and I believe he would be interested in honestly, it gets in traditional arts. There's this kind of whatever, those guys, people were into 3D and 3D modeling and stuff like that. But honestly, I think he'd be very interested in the whatever, Maya or Unreal or whatever. But Michelangelo was a beyond art, was a very very interesting modern personality, and sort of he was excellent at anything he tried. So it's sort of interesting to think about. I'm not that far away from that sort of thing. I've definitely, when I was young, I was very interested in computer programming, for instance. I was very I was probably more into computer programming when I was 14 years old than I was in art. I was very interested in 3D. I had a very basic 3D program I was using, and we're talking about in 1996, whatever 3D programs were available to kids basically back then. I was using them. I had a cracked copy of 3D Studio Max. Maya was a new program people were just starting to talk about. I was using a program called TrueSpace. We had Bryce. Softimage was something I was I gotta get my hands on that. I gotta crack that. Go to those wares sites. Oh, there's a new person in chat. Your work really reminds me of Even Amundsen. Hi, new person in chat. I'm not sure who that is. Even Amundsen? Anyway, thank you. I assume it's a compliment. But when I turned 15, man, the hormones started kicking in, and I was like, I'm never gonna get a girlfriend. And I was like, you know what? I bet if I focus on being an artist, I would totally get some chicks. And it worked out that way, but it was a Interestingly enough, I was like, sometimes I look back and I'm like, I wonder if I should have stayed a programmer. Or would I have made more money? But it's like I have zero regret. I'm so glad I stuck with being an artist because this is so much fun, and it's I feel like I'm making a good impression on my kids and stuff. Mischievous. Oh, person on. Okay, hold on. You know, the hard thing is I can't click on this link. Maybe if I pull up the Twitch. Twitch. Okay. Yes, thank you for okay, now I can see this. Okay, we can look at this. I mean, that's nice to say. This person looks goated. Fantasy artist. Oh, Assassin's Creed. That's nice. Golem. Okay, they're like me. They've been doing fan art forever. Except I haven't been doing it forever. Yeah, I gotta get more of those like sassy punk sci-fi girls like flipping off camera. You know, that's the way to success. No, I dig this stuff. Whoever is this that's cool. Well, I appreciate the glad you like it. Do you, new person in chat, have you seen it in my streams? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? That is to say that you might like seeing some of the other stuff I've been doing. If you like that kind of work. So, how would I say? Tiny little elf. What were their name? Mischievous little elf. The work I do is a little more story driven. I'm a storyboard artist. So where you could look at their work and be like, of course there's story in this. It's not quite the same. Sector says, in the development world, you either want to be make your own stuff, which is hard, or find a position which you don't have to program anymore, which is just management. Yeah, so I was very attracted to the problem solving and I was, it's interesting. I was very ambitious with my programming and very driven to learn more, but it couldn't dovetail with what was becoming like an interest in social life and meeting girls and having romances and exploring substance abuse and stuff like that. As a teenager, like my mind, that part of my brain had to set aside. It wasn't compatible with the habits I was getting into. But I've always been a it's our first time joining one of the streams. Been checking out art from your YouTube channel for a while. I really love the work I do. Oh, that's super sweet. I'm glad you say that. Listen, I won't harp on you too much. It's cool to meet new people in chat, especially via the YouTube stuff. And welcome. Wonder if I should pop up this thing. Do I have my socials up? Oh yeah, they're all here, but they're small. All right, we'll make this big just in case it's not obvious. If you're on any of these other socials, check it out. I'm trying to update my website. Drop a follow. My situation right now is I'm happily doing fine, doing storyboarding in the commercial arts. I have a good niche. I'm happy about that. It's very hard to make a living as an artist now, and I'm happy enough to get by. That said, I'm looking towards the next phase of my life being something that is a little less mediated by people with differing opinions on what audiences want. And what audiences want is something I admittedly need to learn more about. So that's where people like you come in. And I do want to know what you think, and if my work sucks, I want you to tell me. But if you think it's not bad, I appreciate that. So like where, for instance, mischievous little elf. We can go back to that. I can bring some of that up. The oh, where did it go? Maybe I closed it. Here, but this is Evan Amundsen. Is he Dutch? Is he I know a Scandinavian name when I see one. Obviously all this is goated. We love all this. I've got a oh man. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see if the search function bails me out here. Oops. How do I... Love this kind of character stuff. From my my own POV, this is my own weakness, is I don't have a very good Oh, interesting. Let's read this. Regarding AI, though they present a technology of immense power, the AI companies are currently going about their business. The way AI companies are currently going about their business makes silence on this point impossible. The exploitative mining of artwork into datasets for the training of image generators with no way or interest in fairly compensating the artists who originate the source artworks is an enormous problem in itself. The adverse effects that the likewise thoughtless implementation of such generators into creative pipelines will have on the job prospects of artists, not to mention the real harm it will do to our industry and artistic communities, must also be considered and mitigated as best as possible. That ArtStation, as a hub of this community and a powerful platform in the industry, is failing to take a stand with artists adds to a mounting record of lackluster responses to the recent controversies, such as the NFT boom, all the way up to the diminishment of art posted in support of Ukraine in response to the invasion by Russia earlier this year. Oh, I wasn't aware that there were political levers being pulled at ArtStation. That's interesting. Clearly, the calculus of... I'm a newcomer to ArtStation. I do have an ArtStation account, but it's mostly ignored. Clearly, the calculus of action at ArtStation HQ is faulty. Hopefully, they will, when they remember that their platform is sustained by those who make and share art, change their approach and lend their power to the cause of stopping exploitative AI practices in the future. Act in such a way as to be able to stand as an integral pillar of this community, not one that supports its exploitation. That choice is theirs. This is mine. Until ArtStation shows solidarity, my gallery there will show nothing but this image. Solidarity and fair practices are key to an artistic community, so take care of each other and pay it forward. Well, this clearly was written apparently 2 years ago, got lots of likes, well said. I definitely agree entirely with this, and so give it up to Evan. Definitely could not put it better myself, and scroll through and find some more art. My own take on this stuff, and I've thought of, I think about this every day, obviously. So Evan was probably well within the world of people whose art was trained on to make, AIs working. When websites such as like Have I Been Trained and stuff like that came out, so artists could see if they had been trained on and stuff, I was like, oh, well, they've obviously stolen my artwork too. But I went on there and I was like, I wasn't trained on. I was like, how come they didn't steal my art? It's weird to say that I was weirdly jealous that I had been ignored, essentially. And then I realized it's like, well, it's because I I follow the rules and I don't share the stuff that I work on because I'm not allowed to. I don't know how Evan gets away with it. Maybe all this is spec, and so this is just like, you know, whatever they're doing on their special, in their free time. Presumably not all of this was paid, and if it was, maybe they had permission. When I ask for permission to share my stuff, they say no. And that's been an interesting conflict that I've been running into. Norwegian. Okay, very good. Well, Evan is a good egg in my book. My wife is Norwegian, and so we're all fans of Norwegians here. It seems really tough to balance personal growth as an artist with working commercially as a concept artist, yeah, or as a storyboard artist. Yep, that's me. Yeah, I've found one or two of my drawings on Have I Been Trained, but they're really bad. But I posted on multiple socials. So in my case, I took this as I took the fact that apparently I was invisible as an opportunity to. It may be counterintuitive, but I just wanted to do the opposite of what I had been doing before. So where I had previously been happy enough to draw for a paycheck and never tell anybody what I had done and get along with my life. That changed when the widespread adoption of AI technologies started occurring among my clients. And it became clear that previous arrangements were not going to be held to be as sacred as I was led to believe when we had made them. And that they intended, whether or not I had objections, to decouple from that arrangement. Now, whether their POV from that is sustainable for them is debatable. And it applies to me too. Is it sustainable? I don't know. And the anxiety that it produces has me trying new things. This is a project where I'm saying, okay, you do you, I'll do me. And what I do is going to be my own stuff. And we'll see, you know? We'll see who has an audience. You do your AI and see how well audiences respond to that. Okay? I'm going to do my stuff without AI and see how audiences respond to that. And that's it. That's the experiment. So if they win, they win. You know? They won't need me if that's all they need. And I'll be okay. I'll figure something else out. You know, I married well. I'm not the world's, you know, most hard up case, but if I can, I want to make a more sustainable future, not just for myself, but for artists. Maybe there's a way. So if I can demonstrate that audiences prefer content utterly absent from the invasion of this corrupting influence, I would like to do that. I'd like to try. So, all right, let's see. Where can I? Oh yeah, Sextra's on a lot of platforms as the Sextra. I've seen so much less generic AI stuff online. Yes, it's been interesting to say that. Now, partly is like probably because I'm hiding it and blocking it, but like I'm not seeing the invasion. I think a lot of audiences are sort of making it clear, like, we don't want that. Like my wife, for instance, is a very sort of like a I wouldn't consider her tastes to be extremely cultivated. You know, it's not like she went to art school and thinks of her artistic opinions as excellent. She has noticed that AI is polluting her Pinterest feeds, and as I've helped her train her eye to notice it, she's come to really resent it in a way that makes me proud and hope for the future. And in the meanwhile, my children are blissfully learning how to make art the old-fashioned way, and I'm grateful for that too. I'm trying to figure out a way to make this back leg be deep into perspective, but also feel like it's like dragging. And it's like a certain amount of articulation. It might just need to be like kind of a blur. If you ever like seen a dog on like a kitchen floor, right? Or like a hardwood floor, like just like a dog. A happy dog. It's all momentum, no brakes. And like they're running up to someone and then they want to run back, and it's like the way they sort of change, they sort of try to pivot and they try to move. They're switching they're accelerating in one direction and accelerating in another, and they can't do it on a dime, so they have to like paddle with their legs a little bit. I want some of that action in this, if possible. The Scrabble thing, yeah, exactly, yeah. Hold on, we have to Quasimabed. What can I Quasimabed, can I beg you to shorten your name to something? You don't have to change it. Just tell me what we can call you that can feel a little bit more accessible. Like Abed, or is tell me what something like that would Kasim. Okay, hopefully that sounds good. Okay, Kasim. I would say that because thank you. So I'm not sure how old you are, but my parents were animators during the 90s, or writers and animators for like lots of Disney shows. And like I'm based in LA. I was born in LA. My parents were in the entertainment industry. They were both artists. So I'm sort of like captivated in this sort of entertainment space, but I come from a animation angle, and in a like 80s, because I'm 42, so it's like I'm a little bit sort of more established with like retro gaming and like 90s sort of aesthetics, like radical Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of stuff. So some of that might come out in my preferences and my perspectives. So not sure how old you are or what where your interests lie, but it may not be clear, or it might be, but this is something where that's the POV I'm bringing to this sort of stuff, where when I was growing up, Zelda, well, there was a cartoon Zelda that we all know I have history with, but also Zelda definitely had like a different aesthetic, and that aesthetic lived in our minds and our imaginations more than it did on the internet, for sure. I grew up mostly without an internet. I mean, kind of. I was probably 13, 14 by the time I had regular internet access that I could dictate my own whereabouts with. And That was probably in 96, 97. You can imagine what the internet was like back then. There really was no such thing as... Here, we only got about 15 minutes. I'm going to put on the Zelda. Some Zelda and chill. Goated playlist. We know we love it. Oops, stream down. Oh, sorry. Says it's okay. It's extra. Maybe try to rejoin. I'm not sure. But yeah, this is a this is a project where I get to the Zelda movie was announced in late 2023, and that's when I started streaming. That's when work started to shift for me, where it became sort of clear that what I hoped was a temporary sort of situation happening with my, oh yeah, okay, so it went down, but now it's up again. Okay, hopefully it's still up. I didn't cut the stream, so it was probably just Twitch, but the... Hey, I'm here. I didn't cut out as far as I can tell on my end, but I know it's different. So I was... I mean, I could ask this. Kasim, do you play like Apex? Do you play Clash of Clans? You said you'd seen some of the other streams. I'm just curious, do you know about these titles? Because it's interesting, it's like gaming is a thing that is very worldwide. So, you know, whereas like people might be like, oh, have you seen this movie or this show? People are like, no, I don't watch that. But like everybody knows video games. It's like worldwide. We played a little bit of both. Okay, so I was a so you're familiar with the titles, for instance. I was a I storyboarded several seasons of the cinematic trailers for... Storyboarded the short film that they did. The... stream down. There must be a threshold in which... yeah. Just went live. Okay. We are so back. So I want to say something. I'm not sure if it's... This is not going to be official for maybe a couple more streams, but I'm sorry, I'm not sure Twitch is the platform to be on for what I'm trying to do. If it's... I'm gonna have to be doing some experimenting to see whether or not, like, the weak link in the dual stream chain is Twitch or YouTube. And even if it's YouTube, like, I still might ditch Twitch because I really hate to say this, but it isn't, it's the slowest growing platform that I've been on it the longest. So much the same way that I am opening up inquiries into whether or not there are sustainability issues with a lot of my thinking. my relationship to Twitch, while long-standing, is literally the most controversial, apparently. And it's not through my doing. It's like I try to do figure drawing, Twitch bans me. I try to. So it's like, and it's like Sextra. I know that, like, you know, we do what we can to not mess around with that stuff, but these are challenging times for me to. It's like they won't host my archives, and whereas previously they did and stuff like that. It's just a difficult situation, and in far less time I have almost more subscribers on my YouTube than I do on my Twitch, and most of the people on either platform, I'm kind of ambiguous in terms of like whether or not one is better than the other. Anyway, I'm hoping to not have so many situations where the stream goes down. It could just be my connection. It could have been that. But I'm not taking anything off the table. So anyway, just a little bit of forewarning. I might have to make a decision. I won't do anything in haste though. It's not like it harms me. All I'm really trying to do is get art out the door, and streams going down doesn't help that, but it doesn't prevent that either. Particularly here in the UK, needing ID to access stuff flagged as mature content. Interesting. Is my stuff flagged as mature? I don't know if it is, but I certainly don't label it as meant for kids. And that said, it's like, I don't necessarily need you to be an adult, but it is it's a thing where it's like, this is not a particularly unfiltered stream, so no. Viewer discretion is advised. Anyway, we got 5 minutes and then I gotta be out the door. So what's happening today is my kids they're at school right now, but they're signed up for aftercare, which is essentially they get to hang around at school for a few hours. Now, we signed them up for it, but I forgot to tell them about it today. So my kids, when they get out of school, I want to make sure they're not just like wandering around wondering where daddy is and crying. Not that that would happen to my daughter, because she knows about this stuff, but my son is new to kindergarten, and him being 5 and him not listening when I tell him stuff is a good indication that maybe I should hedge my bets and try to be a good dad and get eyes on the transition, make sure that happens smoothly, yes? Okay, I'm glad my stream wasn't flagged. I have been suspended from Twitch for showing my figure drawings and stuff like that. That was highly uncalled for. But I guess if you draw a nipple that well, they're gonna punish you for it. Okay. Here is some excellent news. This is potentially game-changing news. Okay? This is for the real ones. Everybody in chat needs to listen up. This piece, as of this moment, is on the we've crested the hill. Okay? The parts that I've drawn were the hard parts. What's left, I mean, if we just look at the sketch, you know, it's just a bit of like gray rendering, right? And some, you know, atmosphere and there's plenty of detailing and stuff like that, for real. But this is my goal. This might be achievable. I think I can push this out today. This is we're gonna make this shiny like a diamond, as Sexer likes to say. And we're gonna do it as not like faster than it should be, but only as fast as it needs to be. And we're gonna see how that goes. it may be that we can find a nice compromise, if you will, between my fully rendered stuff that takes like 20 streams to pull off, right? In the better part of a month. We've certainly done plenty of that, yes? What if we take something that takes a month, adjust the process a bit, and make it so that we can do it in a day, or like 2 or 3 streams? How does that change the paradigm? Can we do that? That is the question. The question I seek to answer. And this is not a slouch of a piece. There's a lot going on. And I want to do it justice. I want to make it look good. Yeah, I think putting some stuff out, good, mediocre, just to get that initial audience. Then you put out your best stuff later once your audience is ready. Otherwise, you're just betting one really good piece to do all the hard work and it doesn't pay off. And then it's like, now what? 20 sketches versus one final piece. I've noticed that once the audience feels like it's there, they'll respond. The audiences, and this has always been true, is people like the work that I put out. They like the work that I put out. If it's rough, they still like it. Like, it's just, is the algorithm showing it to people is sort of the issue. People respond really well to my rough stuff. They really do. And that's because the composition is still there in the rough stuff. There has to be, it's a little bit of like chicken and egg, right? If the audience isn't there, they're not going to respond to it. But also, they're not going to respond. You can't cultivate an audience with scribbles. So there's kind of a like, you have to sacrifice a certain amount of that good meat to get the momentum going. And then now I'm willing to sort of like, it does depend on the scribbles for sure. But also the audience is there for the process vids as well. It is there. It might be up to the algorithm nonetheless. But one thing is clear to me is that it might be, I might be, so previously, like say 6 months ago, made great work, but I was indexing a little more heavily into quality versus quantity. And there's a sweet spot, I think, that where I think a little less quality, or effort, time, a little less time, a little more output, better results for me overall. And I'm really just trying to be like, artists advocating for artists. How can I make that message happen? Don't use AI slop kind of thing. I can't be like Leonardo spending 7 years or 21 years or whatever on a Mona Lisa, and then it's famous 400 years from now, right? But not when I need it to be, where it benefits me and like the people that I care. Okay, that's it. We're gonna have to leave it be from here. I'm going to do one of these. I'm still sorting out my new camera setup. Hey, I really appreciate people coming in, giving me a little support. I gotta go see about my kids, make sure they're safe, and I love you all. All right, till next time. Adios.